In the shadow of grief, gratitude shines. FC Penafiel thanks the world after heartbreaking farewell to Diogo Jota and Andre Silva. There are moments in life and in football when time seems to freeze. Not because of a last-minute winner, or a dazzling display of skill, but because of loss. Because of silence. Because of heartbreak. On a quiet morning in Portugal, when the sun rose gently over the hills of Gondomar, a nation awoke to a grief it could not have imagined, and a void it did not know how to fill. Diogo Jota, the pride of Liverpool and Portugal, and his beloved brother, Andre Silva, a rising light in the ranks of FC Penafiel, were tragically taken from the world in the early hours of a Thursday that will forever be etched in memory. A car crash in Spain silenced two voices that had only just begun to tell their stories. The funeral that followed, held on a soft Saturday morning in their hometown, was not just a farewell, it was a national moment of mourning, of remembrance, and of unity. As crowds lined the streets, as teammates, legends, and lifelong supporters wept together, and as flowers blanketed the path to their final resting place. A small football club from Portugal found the strength to speak for all of us. FC Penafiel, the second-tier club that Andre Silva proudly called home, stepped forward not with a grand gesture, but with a message full of dignity and love. Football Club de Penafiel said deeply thanks all the messages of support, condolences and feelings that have reached us in various forms over the last few days, the club wrote in a touching social media tribute. At a particularly difficult time, for our entire Penafiel family, it is with great gratitude that we acknowledge each word, gesture, and demonstration of affection. Thank you. These weren't just words, they were a window into the heart of a football community shattered by loss, but uplifted by compassion. It was a thank you sent into a world that had stopped to care. In this script, we walk the emotional roads that connect Gondomar and Anfield, Penafiel and Porto, the silent corridors of mourning and the roaring terraces of footballing pride. From the streets where Jota and Andre played as boys to the global arenas where their names echoed, we explore the tributes that poured in, the presence of giants of the game who came to pay their respects, and the strength of a family, a club, and a country united in grief. This is a story of brotherhood in blood, in football, and in spirit. A story of how clubs like FC Penafiel become homes, and how players like Diogo Jota become legends, not only because of what they do on the pitch, but because of how they make others feel off it. It is also a story of gratitude, raw, beautiful, and powerful. As you read on, we invite you to pause, reflect, and join the thousands who stood shoulder to shoulder in Portugal, who lit candles in Liverpool, and who whispered prayers from stadiums, homes, and hearts all over the world, because football lost two sons. But in their memory, the game came together like never before. The tragic morning, a nation in shock. The sun hadn't yet risen over Portugal when the news began to break. First a whisper, then a murmur, then a collective cry of disbelief that stretched from Lisbon to Liverpool. Diogo Jota and his younger brother, Andre Silva, had been killed in a car crash in the early hours of Thursday morning while traveling through northern Spain. The confirmation came slowly, almost hesitantly, as if no one wanted to believe what they were reading. It couldn't be, it shouldn't be, but it was true. For Portugal, it was as if the heartbeat of a generation had been suddenly silenced. The national team had lost one of its brightest stars, a tireless, fearless forward whose name had become synonymous with passion and pride. And for FC Penafiel, a close-knit club in Liga Portugal too, the pain was just as piercing. They had lost one of their own, a player who had given them everything, whose quiet dedication was matched only by his loyalty. News channels halted regular programming. Radios shifted from music to silence. Gondomar, the town where the brothers were born and raised, fell into a grief-stricken stillness. In the streets, where they once kicked their first football, grown men wept openly. Storefronts closed, candles were lit, and parents held their children a little tighter. Because even if you didn't know Diogo and Andre personally, you knew them in your heart, as sons, as brothers, as dreams in motion. Social media exploded with disbelief and sorrow. Within hours, hashtag #RipDioGoJOTA and hashtag Andre Silva trended globally. Messages poured in from footballing legends, clubs, supporters, and rival fans alike. This was no ordinary tragedy. This was a heartbreak that transcended teams, colours, and rivalries. For Liverpool FC's, where Jota had become a beloved figure, not only for his on-pitch brilliance, but for his humility and humanity, the impact was immediate. Jurgen Klopp, himself in mourning, had no words, only a somber photo posted by the club of Jota celebrating in red, now tinged with grief. The tributes were swift, but none were rushed. Each was deliberate, heavy with the weight of sincerity and love. Meanwhile, back in Portugal, FC Penafiel was wrestling with a loss that cut deep into the core of its community. Andre Silva, though not as globally known as his brother, had earned the respect of every player, coach, and fan who had come across him. His teammates spoke of his quiet determination, his relentless work ethic, and the way he always put the team before himself. Coaches remembered his hunger, his humility, and his unwavering smile, even in defeat. And at the center of this whirlwind of grief stood a family that had given football, not just one son, but two. A family that had sacrificed, believed, and supported, only to be left shattered by a twist of fate that no one could comprehend. Portugal, a country that celebrates its footballing heroes like saints, now prepared to lay two of them to rest. But, amid the heartbreak, something remarkable began to happen. People came together, clubs paused. Flags flew at half-matched training grounds held moments of silence. In Anfield, scarves and shirts began to pile outside the main stand, fans leaving messages of love in Portuguese and English. At FC Penafiel's stadium, staff and supporters alike gathered with candles, tears, and arms linked in solidarity. Grief had become the great unifier, and with it came an outpouring of grace. By midday Thursday, condolences arrived from figures as distant as Pope Francis and as close as local schoolteachers from Gondomar. Portugal's Prime Minister made a statement honoring the brothers' legacy. UEFA offered its sympathy, and players from rival teams linked arms during warm-ups in silence. But for all the global reaction, one of the most poignant moments came from a small social media post by a humble club, deep in the heart of Portuguese football. It would come a few days later, but its power would resonate across the world. The message from FC Penafiel would remind us that football isn't just about goals, trophies, or fame. It's about people, it's about family, and in the face of unbearable tragedy, it's about love.